What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Action Network podcast presented by FanDuel. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and this is our AFC season betting preview part 2. In this episode, we're going to preview the AFC North and the AFC West. So stay tuned for that. And if you haven't checked out part 1, that's up right now. We got the AFC South and the AFC East previewed in that one. And here to help me break down all of these teams and outlooks for 2023, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stucky. Stuck, what's going on?
What's up, brother? Excited to chat some NFL once again. The season will be here before we know it.
Yes, sir. And I think this AFC North is particularly a challenging one to kind of handicap, because I think all 4 teams in one world or another could finish with a winning record. But, being that they have to play each other, a little less likely. But let's start with the Cincinnati Bengals. The win total at FanDuel is 11.5. It's juiced to the under at minus 144. We know that double-digit win totals have only hit about 44% of the time since 2002. This Bengal team does expect to get cornerback Chidobe Awuzie back by week 1. The defense looks solid with Hendrickson and Hubbard Reader on the line, like the linebackers. So really just comes down, and we like the offense. So I guess it comes down to Burrow's health and just the schedule in general. Where do you see the Bengals kind of ending up?
Yeah, I might end up dabbling on the under here. Let me double check what my projection is. 11.5. You can get under 11.5 out there. I project 10.5 wins for the Bengals. I do have, obviously there's some concern about Burrow and his calf, which would have, it's not like the season isn't in doubt, but week 1 is, and then maybe early on in the season, because this has happened before with Burrow, right? Like training camp issues, and he hasn't had a normal preseason and reps. And then, there's it happened last year. There were some struggles early on after the appendectomy. So that could really benefit the Browns in the division race, because the Browns host the Bengals in week 1. There's, because of their expensive pieces on offense, there are some questions on this team, mainly on the back end at safety. They lose their 2 mainstays there. And so we could see a drop-off in efficiency across the board on defense. Running back, tight end. I'm not a giant Orlando Brown Jr. guy, but, if the offensive line stays healthy, as it did all the way up until the end of last season, it was definitely improved after a disastrous season in 2021. The one thing that I'll note with the Bengals, obviously Burrow's elite, and he's going to keep you he's probably going to bring the Bengals to the playoffs as long as the team stays healthy most seasons, and they're a real contender. But they've had everything go right in this division over the past 2 years, right? Like, you look at, obviously they had the offensive line injuries late, but even the path to the Super Bowl last year, but more specifically in the division, the Ravens had horrendous injury luck over the past 2 years. The Browns obviously haven't had great injury luck either, and they had the whole Deshaun Watson situation. So, really everything's worked out for the Bengals, who I think have been like around top 10 in adjusted games lost on both offense and defense the past 2 years. So they've been lucky in that department, and the other contenders have been unlucky. So it wouldn't shock me to see that trend reverse itself this year. And there are a couple areas of question on the roster that I do have, but obviously, the offense is always going to be elite when you have Higgins, Chase, and Burrow, and an improved offensive line, great defensive coordinator that they were able to hang on to, which I was pretty surprised by. Good defensive front, you have reliable linebackers, but the safeties, that could ripple throughout the entire defense. So we'll see how that pans out. So I do see a little value in the under, since I project 10.5. So might end up dabbling there, and I think that there's some opportunity for the other teams in the division, which we will talk about shortly.
Yeah, this Bengal team, the roster up and down looks good. I mean, the safety situation is a concern, obviously losing Bates, but just statistically speaking, safeties aren't quite as important, quite as premium as some of the other positions on a defense. I still like Anarumo. I still like that defensive front. So I think they'll be able to weather it, especially if Awuzie, is close to what he was last year, which is obviously no guarantee. So that's big. But assuming he's anywhere, in that quarterback one conversation again, I think you're still going to have a pretty good defense. So this Bengal team still one of the best, still in that top tier in the AFC with Buffalo and the Chiefs, but it's such a gauntlet. Like, first of all, those three teams, you play those three teams in like a round robin tournament 100 times. It's probably going to be pretty split between those three. Mahomes probably with a little bit of an edge, but it's tough to pick between those two teams. Buffalo is since he plays at home, they go to San Francisco, they go to at Kansas City, at Jacksonville, at Tennessee, the AFC North. So, especially with Burrow not coming into the year 100%, I would lean under as well. I do think this is the best team in the division, but I see a lot of opportunities for all these teams in the AFC to kind of be pulled closer together, especially in the AFC North, just because of facing each other. Like, I don't think playing Pittsburgh twice is 2 wins. I don't think playing Cleveland twice is 2 wins. Like they could easily lose 1 to 2 games in all 3 of the division matchups. And yeah, I think 11.5 is pretty aggressive for the Bengals. I would have it closer to the win total closer to 10.5 as well. So
yeah, I'm gonna lock. I'm actually gonna bet it. I've convinced myself, and you've helped me convince myself as well. So yeah, I'm gonna bet the Bengals under 11.5. The interesting thing about this division is these teams are in the AFC, but their strength of schedule ranks are pretty low. They're not really high because of the divisions that they draw. You get the AFC South and the NFC West, but the Bengals have a first place schedule. So they have the toughest schedule. I have them at the 10th toughest schedule in the league. And then, I have the Ravens 14th, the Browns 19th, and the Steelers 18th. So the Bengals definitely have the toughest road. I mean, they host the Bills, who they're going to be just salivating for revenge. They have to go to San Fran. They go to Kansas City late in the season. So that first place schedule also could cost them another win or two. So yeah, it looks to me more like a 10, 11 win team max than 12 or 13.
Yeah, the 11.5 is aggressive. And don't get me wrong, could this Bengal team go 15-2? Absolutely. They have the talent to do it, but we know that's less likely than not, especially when we look at the history of these teams that enter the season with these larger win totals. So another team that, and I know you're going to have a lot to say on this team, is the Baltimore Ravens, your squad. They were at 8.5 at one point in the offseason, and their win total's up to 10.5 now at FanDuel. Slightly juiced to the under at minus 120, but the win total has jumped. Obviously, you got Lamar back. You got, a new offensive coordinator, Todd Monken, taking over for Greg Roman. But there are a lot of question marks. I mean, cornerback is a concern. Marlon Humphrey's injury doesn't help. There's, how long is that offense going to take to kind of gel with this new offensive coordinator? They've had Roman for Lamar's entire tenure. So what are you seeing from this Raven team in this division for this year with that 10.5 win total?
Yeah, I was really I had so much college football work to do and then a couple of vacations. I didn't really dive into betting NFL win totals and looking at them until the past couple of weeks, and I'm really mad I didn't hit that number on the Ravens earlier. I project as of right now 10 point, me see, 10.6 for the Ravens. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm high on this team. Now I don't see any value in the win total, but I certainly did before. But there are some questions. Edge rush is also certainly a question. I'm a huge fan of defensive coordinator Mike McDonald, what he did last year. I think he's a star defensive coordinator for years to come. So, yeah, schematically, they're going to be really sound, and they're going to be able to confuse quarterbacks other ways. I mean, look no further than what Joe Burrow did against the Ravens last year. Nothing. I mean, in 3 games, I don't think he eclipsed 250 in any of those games. But the Humphrey injury, I think he's going to miss the first 2 games. So he's going to have surgery on his foot, and that's massive. He's the one player outside of Lamar Jackson that they cannot afford to lose. He is that important to everything they really want to do. There's only so much that McDonald can scheme up without one of the top cornerbacks in the league, especially when you don't have a dominant edge rush. Now, the defense was night and day better the second half of the season after they traded for Roquan Smith. They moved Kyle Hamilton around. They did get Rock Ya-Sin, who I think can be a pretty good fit here, but without Humphrey, there's also another question. There's a question at one of the other safety spots. So, you lost Chuck Clark. So, yeah, there's definitely some questions on this defense, although I still think it'll be solid, assuming that Humphrey just comes back and is healthy, right? Like, missing the first 2 games isn't the end of the world. The problem is, they should get by Houston in the opener at home, but they go to Cincy week 2, which is just a brutal blow and brutal timing wise to not have Humphrey for that game, which could ultimately, end up costing them the division. So as well as they did against Burrow last year, not having Humphrey in Cincy is going to sting. But the main reason why I'm so optimistic on this team, and they've really been bit by the injury bug the past 2 seasons, and here we go again with Humphrey, but hopefully you get...
And Rock Ya-Sin. Rock Ya-Sin's week to week last time I checked. So I don't know exactly what his status would be for that Cincy game, but yeah, things could get really bad if he's out as well.
Yeah. So you would hope that they get some better injury luck, not off to a good start this season. But I'm extremely high on the offense in the regular season. I love Todd Monken. I think he's going to do wonders for Lamar Jackson and this offense, which, you now have Ronnie Stanley, who should be 100% healthy now at left tackle. That's huge. You added Odell Beckham. You drafted Zay Flowers, who I also loved. You have a great tight end room. You have Bateman. Dobbins back healthy, who looked great at the end of last year. And this offense just needed a change. It needed a complete 180, and that's what they're going to get with Monken. And I think Lamar is going to have a huge year, and there's going to be the element of surprise for opposing defenses, similar to what we saw when Greg Roman implemented his offense for the first time with Lamar Jackson. And then it kind of, got stale. The league adjusted, and now this is John Harbaugh countering back. So I think Lamar Jackson is going to have a huge year. And with these injuries at corner, with Humphrey, the questions off the edge, maybe the defense takes a step back from what we saw at the second half of last season. What does that mean? More shootouts for this offense, which I think is going to be a very, very pleasant surprise, which is one of the reasons why I like, so I did like the Ravens win total over. I can't get there on a future. The AFC is just so loaded. And by the time the playoffs come around, we're going to have a lot of tape on what this offense looks like. But for the regular season, I think Jackson's going to have a huge year. So I like taking a little flyer on him to win MVP. You have we're going to talk about the Chiefs, but the Chiefs are always going to be there. Mahomes is always going to be there. Everyone knows it already. Like, it's kind of one of those things like becoming like LeBron. But that offense has more questions than it has in recent seasons. Mahomes is still going to be Mahomes, but you know what I mean? Like some of the fatigue there with everyone knows what Mahomes does. So, and then you have this Burrow calf injury. So I think Lamar Jackson has as good a shot as anyone if this offense hits like I think it can. And these potential defensive injuries could actually end up helping him statistically and improving his chances even more. So, yeah, I'm going to take a shot on Lamar MVP. Improved receiver group, Dobbins back, your star left tackle fully healthy now, and just a rock star offensive coordinator who's going to jumpstart this offense. So, yeah, I'm taking a shot there. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I like these. So I'm probably gonna have some Lamar too. I have some Hurts and some Fields. I do like these kind of this as a year for one of these mobile scrambling quarterbacks to win it. Mahomes, he led the league in passing yards last year. That's not gonna happen every year, especially no Tyreek Hill. Some years he's gonna be really good and just not have that great a year as he had last year, and that's when some of these other MVPs I think can capitalize. So I don't mind it. So you don't think there's going to be any just kind of growing pains with the offense? So you think it can hit the ground running? Because that was kind of my only concern with the offense, just kind of going to a new scheme. I did hear they was having some struggles in camp with that, but you think it's going to kind of hit the ground running?
There could be. I really trust Monken to get it figured out, and you do get Houston in week 1 at home to kind of work out some of the kinks. And then you also have, while there might be some rust, you also have the element of surprise of, other teams aren't really going to have any idea what the Ravens are going to throw out there. Monken is very innovative. He is very flexible. And, the offense is going to look unlike anything the Ravens have done in recent seasons and maybe unlike anyone else is doing in the NFL. And therefore, just like in 2019 when, the Ravens zigged with that rushing offense that just hit when Lamar won MVP, you could see a similar case here with just that unfamiliarity actually benefits the Ravens a ton, and specifically Lamar Jackson. So it is a small concern with maybe some rust early on. But if you think about it, that now that with the potential corner injuries and definitely not having Humphrey for that game at Cincy, like Cincy's going to score. That Lamar is there. The Ravens are going to have to put up points, and that could turn into a shootout there. And you have Houston to start at home, and then the Colts at home. So, I think it's a decent opportunity for the offense to get some valuable reps and get comfortable before heading into the stretch run.
Yeah, I think because that was my main concern, but I do, I think their receiving corps is the best they've had, with OBJ. We'll see if he can stay healthy. I like Zay Flowers and Bateman's coming back. Andrews likely at tight end. They may, they're going to get away from some of those Roman principles. So maybe even see, the running backs a little more involved in the pass game. We know they're not going to use the fullback as much. So they're trying Ricard out at other spots to try to keep them, useful. But I think ultimately, the offense should be better. Cornerback, big concern because, just playing Cincy, you're going to need 3 good corners. Pittsburgh's receivers, I think, are going to be pretty good this year. You play Miami late in the year, so you're gonna need that cornerback depth. So I think that's the biggest concern. We saw that a couple years ago, but overall, I think I still wouldn't go over like a median. I don't really like many median kind of, especially positive bets in the AFC because it's going to be so tough. But I think looking at Baltimore versus Cincy, I would rather take Baltimore to win the AFC North at plus 210 than Cincy at plus 150. I think Baltimore is right there. With Cincy, just those depth concerns at corner. The floor is lower, I think. But, especially with Burrow, hurt, and especially if they could kind of figure out how to get a win in that week 2 game. I think Baltimore's a good spot, but overall, yeah, I like Baltimore. I think Baltimore's a lot closer to the top tier than to that second tier of just like everybody kind of mixed in. So I do like the Ravens. All right,
agree. At full strength, this as of right now, I only have the Ravens about a half point below the Bengals.
They're right there. They're right there. All right, Stuck. We're doing these episodes because the NFL season's almost here, and I know that you and I could get so busy sometimes we forget to do basic things like eat food, and that's why we're excited about our new sponsor, Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit. They hook you up with delicious, chef-prepared, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your crib. You'll save time, eat well, and stay on track with your healthy lifestyle. What we like about Factor, 3 things. Number 1, you don't have to do any chopping, prepping, or cleaning up. Number 2, you still get great flavor and nutritional quality you need to tackle challenging topics like the Ravens cornerback situation. And third, Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready in just 2 minutes. So this August, run your own 2-minute drill with Factor and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Just select your meal and enjoy fresh food delivered right to your door. Head to factormeals.com/Action Network Pod50 and use code Action Network Pod 50. You get 50% off. Again, that's code Action Network Pod 50 at factormeals.com. So factormeals.com/Action Network Pod 50 for 50% off. Let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. Stuck, I know you were high in them coming into the offseason, and I'm a little at a loss. I don't love what I've heard out of camp about the offense. And, last year, Watson, throwing to Cooper, 12.3 yards per target, throwing to Peoples-Jones, he was pretty good as well. Njoku, Chubb, all the guys that are going to be back, Watson was pretty good throwing to. And then really the guys he struggled with were a lot of the wide receivers further down the depth chart, backup tight ends, running backs, things like that. So I thought Watson would be better just based on that, but really haven't heard of much improvement in camp. But I like the offensive line. I like the defense with Jim Schwartz and some of the additions they've made on that side of the ball. So where are you on this Browns team?
Yeah, very, very intriguing team for a multitude of reasons. And the latest intrigue is around the kicker. I mean, by the way, they're very unlucky last year. I think Cade York cost them a couple games. And he's on Instagram at halftime, and because he made a kick in the preseason, deleted that post. I think they got to cut him. Like he's shot. So
I don't know the way I don't know who they replace him with though. I mean, I guess there are a few guys, but yeah, the kicker, the teams that with bad kicker situations could really get screwed this year. Like Dallas is another one. It's just not a lot of kickers out there that you can rely on. But sorry, go ahead.
They were extremely unlucky last year due to injuries too. They're due to last couple of years. They're due to get finally some breaks, but I like them to win the division. I don't have them that far off from I have them about a point in power ratings lower than the Ravens, 1.5 than the Bengals. But when you take into account their schedule, which is easier, it's a last place schedule than the Bengals and Ravens, I project the Ravens like 10.5, the Bengals 10.5, the Browns 10.2. So I have them all right in that range, and I am getting a very juicy number on this Cleveland team with the upside of Watson. I agree. I don't like some of the things I've heard, but I'm just hoping that with more reps, with this good offensive line, good running game, coaching staff that I like, that he's going to get better, and I'm kind of investing in that upside rather than going with the win total over. Because if Watson just doesn't have it anymore, then not only are they not winning the division, they're not going over their win total in this division and conference. So I'd much rather take a shot on the division. And then, as we mentioned before, the Ravens, they play the Bengals week 2 without Humphrey. The Browns play the Bengals week 1 with Burrow's calf and like maybe his first action in a while not work. So like that game at home, they could steal that game against the Bengals, and those 2 games could be huge for the division. I really like the schedule. Bengals have a much tougher schedule, and so I'm buying the upside of Watson on the offensive side of the ball. If he can just get back to an above average quarterback, doesn't have to be a superstar, this offense will be really good. And the defense, I love what they did in the offseason. They needed to address the defensive front in a major way, and they did that in spades. I love all of the additions there. I love the additions at safety, and simply changing defensive coordinators and bringing in Jim Schwartz is going to do wonders for this defense. So the biggest problem with this defense last year is they couldn't stop the run. They needed to get bulk up front, which they did. Loved all the additions there. And they had so many blown assignments. And you would hear quotes in the locker room like, we don't know what the scheme, like we're so confused with the scheme. And then you would just see blown assignments from the safeties and in coverage. And Schwartz, who really, his scheme really needs a strong defensive line and a really strong edge rusher, which he has here. He's going to at least come in and have a plan and be able to instill some discipline. And it's really easy to fix some of the things because it's just the most basic shit that the Browns couldn't do last year. So I think that this could be one of, if not the most improved defense in the NFL. I like their cornerback group. I like the upgrades at safety. Even bringing in McLeod, who knows the system very well and won't make those mistakes, I think is huge. And just all that bulk up front, I think is massive. So I think the defense is going to be significantly improved as long as they can find a fucking kicker. And Watson, rounds into form. I think there's a ton of value on the Browns to win this division at a very juicy price, especially considering that I project all 3 of these teams right around 10.5 wins. Browns just slightly below.
Yeah, I think the Browns, that, and to your point about Schwartz and the defense, the last 2 stops, in year 1, top 4 defense in DVOA in year 1 with Schwartz. So not necessarily a defense, and a guy who's going to take a long time to kind of correct some of these things. And like you said, they have the personnel, Garrett, Zadarius Smith, Dalvin Tomlinson. They got Shelby Harris, Okoronkwo, just a lot of good players on that front. Ward, Newsome, Emerson, Thornhill at safety now. McLeod, you mentioned. Love the defense. The O-line still has Wills, Batonio, Conklin at right tackle, Teller. Like good group. Good players really everywhere on the rosters. So, yeah, I don't mind taking a shot that Watson figures it out. And even if he doesn't get back to the Deshaun of old, the roster around him is still strong enough for this team to be in that conversation, as long as he doesn't just completely shit the bed. I still wouldn't go with like a median. Like I still don't love the over 9.5, just because again these AFC teams are just too much together. I think you want more value on these teams, and the Browns being 3rd place in that division in terms of the odds, I think is a nice way to invest. And then we have the Pittsburgh Steelers.
By the way, before we move on to the Steelers,
over. Oh, sorry.
But let me just ask you about one of the other, I think, issues with this offense, the Browns offense that they addressed on paper is they needed like a more speed and a deep threat for this offense because my guy, Anthony Schwartz, has he left the NFL for a track career yet? Wasn't the answer.
So still dropping balls.
Yeah, I saw that in the
still dropping balls in camp.
The fumble in the preseason, but they brought in Elijah Moore, who could solve that issue. Are you high on him here? What are your thoughts on him?
So he's kind of a wild card. I liked what I saw briefly in the preseason with him. I think they're going to use him a little more like a gadget guy and some things like almost like a Rondale Moore in Arizona type player, which that could benefit them. Also Tillman, I think.
Tillman,
you know,
I love
he could
Tillman.
be very good. And let's give DPJ his credit. Obviously probably not a long term guy that they figured would be their starter, but he's played well. Could still be ascending. So there's a lot to like here. Really, it comes down to Watson, but 4-1 to win the division. I think that's kind of the way you want to invest. Because the win total. I mean, that this could be like on paper, this is a 9 to 10 win team, but they might not win 9 to 10 games just because of how tough the division is. But at the same time, they could win the division because everyone kind of gets stuck together. So I think the way to invest longer shots, and then we have Pittsburgh here. 8.5 is the win total, -150 to the over. Tomlin 11-5 over the win totals in his tenure as the head coach of the Steelers. 3-0 over the last 3 years toward the over. The question for Pittsburgh, I think, is how much of a step forward, if any, I think they're going to take a step forward, does this offense take in year 2 with Kenny Pickett? Because they were surprisingly 18th in DVOA and 18th in pass DVOA last year, which was higher than I would have thought with Pickett essentially not throwing touchdowns. So what do you think about Pittsburgh this year? I think quarterback on defense is going to be a concern, but overall, what do you think?
Yeah, their offense down the stretch was even better than that in the second half of the season. But I'm still not a Pickett guy. I can be convinced. I need to see it more and dig into it, but I'm just not there yet. Certainly not a Matt Canada guy. The offensive line is improved a bit. Still some questions there for sure. Maybe you can get Broderick Jones to step up as a rookie. That would be huge if he can fill in at left tackle. But the group overall, I think is getting better. Not the Allen Robinson signing, meh.
I like Calvin Austin. I think Austin ends up winning that job.
I could see that. I was a big Austin fan in college. The defense, they swapped linebackers, which was very interesting swap. But they got some veteran, reliable guys there. But you're right. The secondary outside of Fitzpatrick is definitely a concern. Peterson is way past his prime. You're going to need a rookie in Porter to really shine. Wallace is just meh. The pass defense, especially in the AFC, is certainly a concern. I'm also just, as of right now, I'm not a Pickett guy, and I hate their coordinator, so I can't get in on any of the upside of the Steelers. Mainly, especially in this division and in this conference. I have a lot of respect for Tomlin, Watt, and this front. I project them. I think the win total is sitting at 8-8 adjusted for juice. I project them at 8-7. So I have nothing on the Steelers. I was happy that I was at 8-7 and not 8-1. So that 7-9, 8-1. So I would have to bet the under and then watch Tomlin find a way to go 9-8 again. So they do have a pretty easy schedule for an AFC North team. I just can't get there yet in this gauntlet of a division. It kind of sucks for Steelers fans. Maybe they're going to be better than I anticipate, but I think that they're getting better. It's just that this is the best division in football, and I think they're clearly the 4th best team, and I can't get there on the upside just because I'm lower on Pickett and this play calling. Maybe you're not, and if you really like Pickett, I could see a case for maybe taking a flyer on the Steelers. I'm just not there yet, so nothing for me on the Steelers.
I think the thing with Pittsburgh is I'm not sold on Pickett yet, but I do like the pieces he's surrounded with. And the fact that they were 18th last year, there is some upside here. If he takes a step forward, Same thing, even with the corner situation. Peterson passed his prime in age, but was one of the best corners in the league last year. So he'll be 33. Can he run that back? If Porter's really good as a rookie, so there's a lot of upside here. I don't hate plus 470 for the division because I don't think any of these teams are too far apart. Now, I don't love Canada as a play caller, but just looking at this team, looking at the schedule, and looking at it's just the gauntlet. It wouldn't surprise me if Pittsburgh was number one. It wouldn't surprise me if Pittsburgh made the playoffs, and it wouldn't surprise me if they went over their win total, even though there's not really much value there. So, not low on Pittsburgh. I'm higher than the market, but it is tough, to find something like substantial to really do with them futures wise, because plus 470 on the division, long shot, but still, like you said, they are the fourth best team, at least on paper. So I do think there's some upside. Probably a team we want to bet on. We're going to be betting on again throughout the year. Tomlin is 42-39 straight up as an underdog, so they're going to win some games you don't expect them to win. So it's probably going to mess up teams like the Browns, Bengals, and Ravens in terms of their win totals, which is why I wouldn't go over them, because Pittsburgh's probably going to steal a couple wins in which those teams are favored. So I do expect Pittsburgh to find its way to 9 wins again, but not too much I can do with them. All right. The new NFL season is almost here, so your old habit of never missing a snap on Sunday is back, and I want to tell you about another habit I'm getting into, Caldera Lab Skin Regimen. It's simple, and it takes just 1 minute in the morning and 1 at night. You're already in the habit of brushing your teeth, so why not add another habit right after to take your skincare up a notch with Caldera Labs? The 3 steps are simple. You've got the clean slate number 1, which is the face wash, the base layer number 2, which is the moisturizer, and the good number 3, which is a serum you can use at night that reduces fine lines, dark circles, and puffiness. Skincare is important, but doesn't have to be difficult. Getting in that habit of just a minute in the morning, a minute at night is all you need to take your routine to the next level and get better, clearer skin. And just for our audience, we have an exclusive offer, their best offer anywhere. Use code ACTION at calderalab.com and get 20% off right now. That's 20% off with code ACTION at calderalab.com. Make unforgettable first impressions that lead to those magic words, "You look younger." Get 20% off at calderalab.com with code ACTION. All right, Stuck. Let's go to the AFC West. We got the Chiefs, 11.5. Andy Reid, 9-1 to the over with the Chiefs. Since 2018, they're 26-4 straight up in the division. So I don't know, where are you with this team? Because on the field, I think they're going to be pretty similar to last year. But if they're only going to lose probably one game in the division, which seems to be what they do, I don't know if I see another 5 losses on the schedule outside of that. So where are you with this team?
When is the last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs?
What is it, like 15 straight now? It's definitely probably. Let's see. I know it's been way too long. Last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs is
2015, and they were in the division.
Yep. Yeah. The Peyton Manning era.
We
Yep.
could hit a 10-year stretch. Yeah. I mean, what is there really to say with the Chiefs? It's Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Look, the win total is sitting at 11.8 adjusted. I project them numbers wise at 11-2. You're always going to pay a little bit of a premium, I've noticed, compared to my projections for the Chiefs. There's certainly some questions on this offense outside of Mahomes. Receiver, we'll see how it pans out. Some questions maybe on the offensive line. They've done a really good job drafting and plugging and playing on the defensive side of the ball to kind of adjust for the players that demand a ton of money on the offensive side of the ball. So the defense will be serviceable, but it's Mahomes. Like, what, he's going to win a ton of games. They kind of flash as like a regression candidate. They were really good in one possession games. They were really healthy, but it's like Mahomes is the ball at the end. He's going to win the game. I lean the under, but probably just numbers wise, I'm not betting it. What else is there more to say? As long as he stays healthy, the Chiefs are going to be in the playoffs, and someone's going to have to take them out.
Yeah, I mean, I would lean over if if you say, okay, they'll probably lose one game in the division. Their home schedule: Detroit, Chicago, the Dolphins in London, Philly, Buffalo, Cincy are the three toughest games, but they're all at home. So they got their, the three kind of top tier NFL teams that they play on their schedule at home, and then road: Jacksonville, Jets, Minnesota, Green Bay, New England. Like not nothing daunting. I just don't know if I see 6 losses on the schedule. So I'd actually lean over. I expected Reed to get to 10-1 with KC. McDuffie, the corner, I like his rookie year. I think he'll be should be even better in year 2. Usually corners take a year or so. Still like Snead. So I think the defense, I like that they're getting, kind of committed to just getting more speed on that defense, even if it wasn't going to be a great defense. Like the defense. The one thing I think, Mahomes second in the league in yards after catch per completion last year. That's pretty crazy considering, Tyreek was gone. So maybe not as crazy of a season this year for Mahomes numbers wise, but Chiefs should be right there. I don't, like you said, not much to say with Kansas City, but I do want to talk about LA a little bit because I kind of like this Kellen Moore signing. I just thought Justin Herbert did not go downfield enough. I thought they just had no idea when and how to run the ball at times to kind of maximize their odds of winning games. So the win total is 9.5, but they can go 4 wide now. I think Herbert's a good bet to lead the league in passing yardage. But overall, what do you think the Chargers are gonna do this year?
Yeah, I project 9.9. Their win total's at over 9.5, so slight lean to the over. I like this team. I think the best coordinator, 2 best coordinator changes of the offseason were the Browns on the defensive side of the ball, just fixing all the issues there that we talked about earlier, and then similar, getting anybody in over Lombardi, who just inexplicable play calling, not unleashing Herbert, and not knowing when to run the ball, as you said. In fairness, they had a ton of horrible injury luck, which you would hope turns around. Slater, which is just a huge loss. Even Lindsley at center would miss time, and then the receivers. Herbert was hurt, but that doesn't excuse the play calling before all of his injuries and throughout Lombardi's tenure. And I really, really like Kellen Moore and think he will provide a huge boost to Herbert and this offense. I also really like the receiver they drafted, Quentin Johnson out of TCU. I think that he can, kind of help provide a deep threat, which they need more of, and take the top off defenses, open up things more for Williams and Allen. And then with Slater back, the offensive line should be better. Herbert's now healthy. So this offense could be really special. The defense is very top heavy, and this is kind of what the offense is, there's not a lot of depth. So the Chargers, you really hope that they're due for some positive injury regression, because if not, then things get dire very quickly. But I like this Chargers team, considering I'm considering betting them to make the playoffs. I think this is a playoff team.
Yeah, that's I think betting on them, I might even look at their points and bet they're over on their points scored. I think, like you said, the defense especially is top heavy. I don't mind the depth on offense because they are getting the line should be healthier. You did get guys some experience last year. You could go 4 deep at wide receiver. Palmer's there. You can go tight end. You got Everett. You got Parham. Running back situation behind Eckler, we'll see. I thought Kelly was pretty good last year, but maybe this dude.
Yeah, but if you lose Eckler, or if you
team.
lose,
Yeah.
obviously if you lose Herbert, you're down to Easton Stick.
Yeah,
and then if you
also
if you lose one of your two key offensive linemen, it's pretty dire there too. But yeah, I do like a lot of the pieces they have on the outside. Defensive depth is
that's
much more
bigger
concerning.
concern. Yeah, absolutely. So I do think they'll score a lot of points. May end up in some shootouts if the injuries go against them on defense. But yeah, this team, I think, just going to because Staley, he said, hey, like, we didn't throw downfield enough. Just kind of getting back to that. I think this team could be very dangerous, and they have enough on defense. They're going to give up runs. They're going to give up run play. That's just a scheme. But they were 10th in pass DVOA on defense last year. So we'll see if J.C. Jackson can rebound after a disastrous year. But overall, I think the arrow's pointing up. They just got to not charge her. And maybe, just putting a ton of points on the board will just be the way to go for them. Denver is, I think a lot of people just don't really know what to make of Denver. Their win totals right smack dab at 500 at 8.5. Sean Payton is 9-4-2 to the over. This team did underperform according to their Pythagorean wins by 1.3. They were more like a 6.3 win team last year. The defense was top 10. So, I mean, what do you think is going to happen with Russ and this offense this year? It already kind of got hit by the injury bug, but the O-line should be better. What do you see in year one under Payton?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Sean Payton is an upgrade at head coach. And the Broncos on paper were unlucky last year, right? With injuries on both sides of the ball. The injuries at receiver were insane. They were pretty unlucky in close games. But I project 7.5 wins. We like the Chargers. We like the Chiefs. It's a brutal schedule. And this basically comes down to, I think Russ is cooked. And that's it. That's basically what this comes down to for me. Mathematically, I'd show a ton of value on the under, and I'm not afraid of a Russ resurgence. He just can't do what used to make him great anymore, and I'll make him prove me wrong. So I like the under 8.5.
And our boy Joe Lombardi went over, from the Chargers to the Broncos. So, I mean, I could see Peyton and this team losing a few games while he kind of figures everything out and realizes just what he's in for. So, yeah, I would lean under as well. Haven't seen anything from Russ that's too promising. I think as a fantasy pick, maybe a little better, can run a little bit, but I don't know. I don't know how much he's going to want to do that. Obviously helps him, but he's older now. And then, lost Tim Patrick, who best blocking receiver. So, not a small blow. We'll see if Marvin Mims can step up and give him some speed, because this offense would also lack a lot of speed. In my opinion, if he's not being used a lot, I know Javonte will be back, but not feeling great about the Broncos. Love their defense, but not feeling great about them overall. And then we have the Raiders. They're expected to be the last place team in the AFC West. 6.5 is the win total at FanDuel. The under -138. This team actually did underachieve last year. They did have 7.9 Pythagorean wins, so about an 8-win team. But I don't really like what they did on defense. They were second to last in DVOA. I don't feel like any of the additions really moved the needle, including Marcus Peters, who's he is his age 30 year, so got to be careful with him. But I just don't think the defense did enough. And Jimmy G, can he stay healthy? Probably not. So I'm pretty low on this Raider team. What about you?
Yeah, and by the way, the Broncos would be in much better shape today if they just kept Drew Lock and didn't trade away Lock, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks, a 5th-round pick, Shelby Harris, Noah Fant. Because right now you basically have the equivalent of what you'd get with Lock at quarterback, minus all those picks and you
gave up a pick for Peyton too.
Yeah. Should have just kept Drew Lock season, and we could have tweeted out him. I could have tweeted out him rapping on the bench all the time. So yeah, the Raiders. I don't know. Like they're getting a brand new secondary. I don't know what if it's going to do anything. I'm not wowed by any of the additions. It just kind of wiped some shit away and then threw some more shit back down, is basically how I see it. Maybe Chandler Jones can find his form again and the pass rush can be okay, but the defense is not going to be great. The hope is that Jimmy G knows the system, obviously, and the offense can operate more efficiently. But still have questions about the offensive line. And Jimmy G's he's a serviceable, winning, not going to lose you games, average quarterback, but needs like a good defense and good structure. And he's not going to go out and win games on his own, especially in this division and in this conference. So, I mean, they are a positive regression candidate. The schedule is really tough, but they lost a ton of, one possession games. They blew leads all over the place. But win total is under 6.5. It's like 6.3, 6.4 accounting for juice. I project like 6.7, 6.8. So if I had to bet it, you put a gun to my head, I'd bet the over, but no interest. It looks to me just like a 6-7 win team, below average. And that's about it.
Yeah, and I think it's, if I had a better read on exactly how I thought Denver was going to do, I think it would be easier with the Raiders because, those two games against Denver, I think they won both last year. And, that's probably going to factor into exactly where they end up win total wise. But really not into their defense. I think a lot of lateral moves, maybe, Hobbs going back to the slot should help. He was not as good last year, playing more on the outside, but I think Chandler Jones probably just cooked at this point. I don't, it's been a couple years now, and he has not gotten back to that level of a pass rusher that he was early in his career. So, not really expecting much from him. So, yeah, I'd actually lean under on the Raiders. I don't like the vibes with this Raider team. But if they sweep the Broncos again, they'll probably go over. So, nothing I'm really doing here with this Raider team. All right. That is going to.
Wait, before we close it off, let's. I want to ask you one question before you recap and sign us off. I'm going to put you on the spot, so you might have to think about it for a second.
Okay.
But I wrote down my answer as you were talking. As of right now, and I won't hold you to it. You can change it by week 1 if you want to, and I'll ask you again. As of right now, because I was trying to do this exercise the other week, and and by the way, I also wrote down here, I forgot to tell you, we were talking about ugly dogs in our week 6 pack that I'm thinking of. I already know, but don't tell me that. I can already see you taking the Texans week 1. But,
I already have half a unit on them. I've had a half a unit on them all summer. So, yep, you are correct. I thought the Ravens do well in week 1, I think, historically, but yeah, that's too many.
Yeah, times. And against rookie quarterbacks, but
yep.
The name right now who you think the 7 AFC playoff teams will be.
Yeah, this is tough. Okay, so
hard.
We're gonna go Buffalo, Cincinnati, Baltimore, Tennessee,
match,
Kansas City. That's match. 5, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's 5. Chargers would be my 6th, and then with my 7th, that's when it really gets tough. It's between the Browns, Jets, and Dolphins for me, and Steelers. I would go probably lean Jets. I hate leaving out the Browns though, but I probably lean Jets. I know you're higher on the Browns, so I'm guessing you got Browns over Jets.
Yeah, we have the same 6, and then I have Browns over Jets, so kind of on the same page there. But you could see it going many different ways, and when you try to do that exercise, you see how loaded the AFC really is. And then in the NFC, you're trying to find teams to get into the playoffs.
Yeah,
the AFC, you're trying to kick teams out. But you want to do a quick recap?
Yeah. So for the AFC North, we are both leaning under on Cincinnati. Stuck likes Lamar Jackson to win the MVP for the Ravens at 16-1. Stuck likes the Browns to win the division at plus 400. I can get behind that as well. I think the Browns are a team you want to go upside bets with. And then the Steelers, I lean over and don't mind a division long shot on them either. In the AFC West, I like the Chiefs over. Stuck's leaning under. Both leaning over on the Chargers. Think they're probably going to make the playoffs. Both under on the Broncos. Think it's just not going to go too well for Russell Wilson, especially playing the Chiefs, Chargers twice, and it's tough AFC. And then don't love the Raiders. Stuck's a little over on their win total projection. I would go under, though. I'm just not really liking what they did on defense and don't trust Jimmy G to stay healthy. So that's what we got for the AFC South. The AFC North and the AFC West. We'll have the NFC episodes up coming next. And, of course, we already have our AFC South, AFC East episode. So check that out right here on this channel if you haven't. You can find us on X. Stucky is at Stucky2. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Also, if you haven't listened to our very special podcast interview Monday with legendary gambler Billy Walters, be sure to give that a listen as well. And until next time, let's get this money.